Hi, Barklord. I want to talk about this, but right off, I want to say this is something I'm sort of researching recently. I mean, it fits in with other things I've known, like anytime, any of us do that. But just to say, I mean, I want to look into it. I'll say what I find, but, thanks for saying it's the kind of thing I might have something to contribute on that, you see the scientific side. I don't have that much. Um, Long-term knowledge, but I have been looking into it recently and fitting it into what I know about physics and what I think of technology and this sort of thing. I've been looking more into rare earth minerals. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Oh, yeah, by the way, it's fine the whole. I mean, it's not fine. I wish you had as easy access to the internet as you wanted. I find little devices and stuff are kind of a pain, but they do work. And there's some benefits in the sense of not getting too connected, I guess. But I think it does suck that it's hard to do comments because personally I like the comments. Oh, hey, actually, I had a little. Somebody gave me a little USB keyboard, and you can use it even on your iPhone and type comments. That actually, but you still have a problem with you don't see the reply structure, but you can make comments and type stuff pretty easily. There's alternate apps for doing YouTube. I don't know why I want. Oh, yeah, because anyway, no problem. And I've been really busy too. I haven't been making videos. I've been making them about far less, once a week instead of once a day or something. Um, so where were we? Yeah, so the lithium. I haven't really been looking into lithium. Okay. Um, so let me say what I have found and seen about lithium. First of all, I think with lithium and all the rare earth minerals, they act like there's just limited deposits, but that's not true. Lithium is all over. It's plenty. It's plentiful, and the rare earth minerals, which are used for these strong magnets and a lot of the electronics devices, one way or another. Um, like the reason those are considered rare is because they're thin, they're diffuse, but they're everywhere. They're in all rock. Another thing is that all of these elements, basically any element, they're all in seawater as well. So South Korea has started a project to get lithium from seawater. Right now it's estimated to be 5 times more expensive than the way that China does it, which is killing everybody in the regions they do it in. I mean, that's just not a way to do it. That's like saying, that's like cooking a barbecue that you have to stand in the middle of. It's like, yeah, we lose a cook, but it's great barbecue. It's like there's a better way to do it. And if it's more expensive, well, duh. The Koreans say they have that a third of the price, so maybe it's 2 or 3 times as much. Maybe that's what you have to do. Alright, the thing about lithium is that it reacts with a lot of stuff and it's hard to get a hold of. So basically it is in the ocean, and where you find it is where there are old ocean deposits. So what they call the brine, sort of a salty chemical mixture, I guess, that's why they have it there. It's also in clays that and but it's also just in the seawater, and it's actually in everything, but you're looking for a little bit of a concentration of it. So lithium is supposedly a fairly clean thing, like cleaner than coal and other things. But the issue is that you're just going to dig up a bunch of clay that's somewhere, or a salt flat, and there is biotics in that. If you're getting in a salt flat, you can say that it's less, but it is there, and that's the environmental impact, and that is an impact, but it's not as bad as fossil fuel, for example, or even the way they get gold and dissolve it with metal, with heavy metals like mercury. Anyway, so I mean, I think a big problem with all of these kinds of, and this isn't really what you were talking about in your video. I mean, this might take me several videos to get to. I want to also save a chance to go ahead and do it more than once. Maybe I should just jump to that now that I was thinking more about what you were really saying about the dependency of. Well, first I'm just going to say, so I think the problem, what we're getting into with lithium and for sure with the rare earth minerals is you can get them everywhere. But you're mining dirt. So what are people going to want to do? They're going to just want to strip the top of the dirt. Well, maybe you have to take the dirt downwards, or maybe you have to go to a desert that can handle a few acres of dirt, you know, or maybe you have to do without, right, which is what we'll get to. But I just want to point out first that there's so much better ways. Like they stopped all rare earth mining in the US, and then one place has started up again. And one thing they're doing is, instead of taking all the stuff they don't use out of the dirt and just putting it in a big pond where it's even radioactive, because there's uranium and they've ended up concentrating that part and it seeps into the groundwater. Well, you don't have to do that. I mean, this place that started up, and I think it's in California, you know, they squeeze all the water out so it's not fluid, and they just make bricks of it. Now, you have to do something with the bricks, but guess what? A lot of the materials in there probably will turn out useful. Like I would say thorium, that's one of the main things that just naturally comes out of this process. So technologically, I don't think we're going to become stuck. We could culturally because, you know, maybe we don't want to do it the expensive way. So that's a real problem I'm not going to ignore, but let's say it's solvable. We just pay a little more for our lithium and heavy metals, right? And I think they could get it pretty much as cheap. But anyway, it's just not an option. If you're going to kill the planet the way they're doing it in parts of China, that's just not an option. We have to face the real costs, right? That's a given. But if we did do that, I don't think we would have to, thing's dead. If we did do that, I don't think we would have to be dependent on a particular geography. I don't think it's quite like oil. As far as I can see, there's lithium and heavy metals everywhere. It's just more expensive to get some places than other, and the main expense is environmental regulation, right? It's just that if you were to get the rare earths in the United States, it's going to be more expensive. But China's stopping this glut supply, and we're going to have to do it this right way, you know, and make dry waste and do something with it and whatnot, rather than just pour it out into the environment. All right, now the other issue we're talking about really was, or the main issue, is this this idea about how we become dependent, how tools are extensions of the body, how we're making extensions of the body that don't really jibe with the organic style. Let's just say there is an organic style, like of your body. The lung has its own needs and job, and the liver has its own needs and job, and the brain has its own needs and job, and they don't backstab each other. I mean, if you're short of oxygen, the body or blood or whatever, maybe it would shunt extra to the brain. But if there's enough, it's never going to there's never going to be, well, the brain's just greedy and it wants extra and everything else does without. It's a true organic cooperation. Okay, and we're not really doing that with our technology. Now, I think that it's inevitable that we either die off or figure that out, right? So in a way, that's my risk of let's try to figure it out, because we'll die off if we don't. What other choice? Either we figure it out or we die off. I don't think I think I could put that away that shouldn't be controversial. if you include things like, yeah, but what we have to figure out is don't do technology and just be basic. I don't think that really works because, I mean, it's basically like, when do you pass the threshold into transhumanism? And I think it's at the point that we need clothes, right? I mean, not at that exact and just that point, but I mean, by that point, we've evolved insofar as we've entered environments, but even in our, Africa or Hawaii, it's like, I think we've actually had clothes long enough that we've started to evolve to it. That's transhumanism. That's evolving into technology. And if you want to get extreme, and I'm not going to do this as a big, strong point, but just, a little thing of, even body evolution. Teeth are technology. So, just to be human is transhuman, like technology is an extension of the body. So what we're really talking about is evolution, but that's not to justify the technology, because the thing about the technology is its rapid change compared to our speed of adaptation. In order to make it an organic thing, it would seem over millions of years of evolution, we have somehow gone through some process that maintains this organic organization over the long run, and the conflict in the short run, or between different systems in the long run, for all the conflict we see within the jungle, overall the jungle is like this stable symbiotic thing. You focus in, it's not symbiotic, there's predation, there's all this kind of thing, parasitism and stuff. You back off and it's like, wow, it's worked out. So even though there's that on the small scale, it's in an organic organization. And that's what we're breaking enough to kill the environment, right? We're not just disturbing it. All right, and I've come around a lot to thinking about, that a couple things. One, I'm not going to try to justify science anymore in general. I will maintain that justification I've had in the past for natural philosophy, a certain kind of philosophy that looks at things a certain way, not to exploit nature, but to understand nature. Like, we're trying to figure out questions that philosophers ask. What's our ultimate, arbiter when we're trying to decide what we're going to, think at the moment, maybe think in the end, our goals? Well, it's natural systems. That's a kind of philosophy that says, yeah, we'll look for organic systems, and that's what our philosophy will be about, right? Organic systems. So, I've realized I'm not going to want to call that science anymore. I mean, I was just thinking over and over about this Archimedes thing, and there's a lot of it, Leonardo Da Vinci and stuff. There's a lot of examples of whomever you want to talk that have done a lot of, research for military purposes and that kind of pragmatism. And I'm not gonna let science off the hook for that anymore. I've gone through times in my life where I didn't and did, and here's the problem. And protesting against biological researchers putting bolts in kittens' heads and stuff. But physics, astronomy, certain things seem like they might be able to keep clear, and astronomy still does a pretty good job, but it's just sort of lucky because there's no space war. It's not like a guaranteed thing. Whereas physics, plenty of examples of people that are just like, hey, I wonder how the universe works. But plenty of examples of, I wonder how the universe works so that I can make a catapult. So, yeah, and it's true. Everything I'm really remembering about your video, I mean, we are adapting our own needs, but I don't see it all as technology, but you could put it that way. And again, I'm not into defending technology and the science technology link. I don't know, I'm softening up to your point of view, but I can maintain this there's still something in all of that in the natural philosophy that I want to defend as a way forward, and I don't think there's any Ludditism, not that you're suggesting that, or it's a word of caution. I think we still have to figure out how to go forward, and I think an understanding of Mother Nature that I would call scientific, there's areas of that you might accept as a spiritual understanding of nature, and not this um, overpowering, overcoming kind of using science to overcome our fears without really figuring them out or dealing with them, at a speed where the system we're living in, remains in balance and at least organically organized, if not perfectly in balance, at least, oscillating around a basic equilibrium. Um, Now, I think all of that will work out in the end, in the sense that whatever the chaos is, there is our old equilibrium, and we're not free of evolution or anything else. The organic principles and powers will come back in, though possibly we would have enough of a chaos in before it comes into before it becomes robust again, that we would, for example, perish. Um, but so I don't really know what the chance of perishing is, but I mean, I do think eventually, if we didn't perish, it has to come back into balance because it's nature and these forces are real. I think that we ought to consciously try to uh, make it more that way. We need to figure out, well, what are these organic principles, and that's how we need to conduct our technology, our lives, and our science, and all of our pursuits of knowledge. I think in the near term, geopolitically, we are in danger of a huge lithium dependency, and the kind of without even knowing it thing, because it's just ridiculous right now. But it's lucky for us that China has decided, well, you know what, we want our lithium. Well, actually, I'm not really sure that's so true about lithium. I would have to look into more. That's where I started going off on a tangent, I think, about the rare earth metals, that pretty much we get them all from China. China's restricting that now, and that's probably good, because we need to figure out how to make them ourselves, right? Um, and if we have to make them and raise the price of our electronics, or God forbid, accept a lower profit margin on them, I think when it comes to that, we'll go ahead and figure out how to mine them here. I think we're at a threshold where we need to find out how to mine and do these old kinds of industry cleanly, whatever the cost is. It's not like they don't know how to do it cleanly. They do. And it's just, oh, but it's more expensive. And we just need to figure out that cost and which ways we can bring it down. And we need to do it, and do it as cleanly as possible. And then maybe we can see, is it possible to have green technology? I believe it is. Um, I mean, if you're willing to get these minerals out of seawater, you can get them out of seawater, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't hurt anybody to take the heavy metals out of seawater. Right? It's not used in the body. It's so trace per cubic centimeter that if you could filter it out of seawater, how could that not be green? And that, I think, will bring us to, well, what are the cultural results? Let's say we can keep that going, and it's cheap. What's going to happen to the human mind and the social mind? I think that's really what you're probably um, getting at, what we should get at. So, yeah, this is just a .0 version of this, because I didn't really, when I make a video, I often like, well, here's what even if it's step one of who knows how many steps, I'll like, here's step one. This is step -1 or 0. It's just a feedback on your video with some of the things that I've been looking up in terms of the real problems with these these issues. I think in terms of the geopolitical dependency, we could solve that by doing it ourselves. And oh, but it's too dirty. Well, do it the clean way. Oh, well, it's too expensive. Well, figure out if it's worth it or not and do it that way. That's not going to happen, so we're going to have these dependencies and crises. But I imagine it shouldn't be too bad for like your side of this whole issue because, I mean, oh dear, people can't have as many smartphones and can't throw away as many batteries. Um, so it wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing. Um, well, that's a whole other thing. Obviously, we also need to figure out how to recycle better. All of these power supplies and batteries and things, they all need to be recycled better. And if it's expensive to get those materials back into a usable form, then something should be done about that. They should be made easier to break up. If that's not possible, then it's a disposal cost. We obviously need a cyclic thing, and this is really going towards what um, trying to answer what you're pointing out about the lack of an organic response is there obviously has to be an organic approach to processing all of our materials. Um, Extraction, refinement into products, and then back into raw materials. That needs to be done in this organic fashion where there's always a cycle. Nature has allowed animals to just do whatever, and eventually it seems to develop a cycle through the combination of all the activities of all the living things. Well, we're changing things too fast to wait for that, and we need to consciously mimic those kinds of cycles. And I do think we can do it, but it's far from assured. And I'm not going to say anybody should have faith in it. Rather, I would like to discuss, well, what are the limitations. Like, an interesting question to me is, okay, let's say I'm right, we can get a cheap green kind of technology. What then? Are we still all going to malls and having iPhones and it's just cheap and free? How good is that for us? Um, so, well, this is already 20 minutes though, so cheers, and I will talk to you later.